Have you ever played in a D&D campaign where you encountered a cult that really got under your skin?
One that wasn't just a bunch of robed figures chanting in a dimly lit dungeon,
Right.
but something more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Something more.
Yeah.
I had this experience recently
Uh-huh.
in a campaign where my party ended up coming across this cult, and they were devoted to this long-forgotten deity.
Okay.
And it wasn't just like your typical evil for the sake of evil.
Oh.
They were like incredibly devoted, almost unsettlingly so, to their cause of restoring this god to power.
Wow.
And what made them so compelling was that they genuinely believed that their actions, no matter how extreme they were justified.
That's really interesting. And it actually reminds me of this article that we have from LitRPG Reads all about designing unforgettable D&D cult leaders.
Oh, cool.
The author is Amir Barakat, and he really dives into the psychology of what makes cults tick.
Okay.
And how to translate that into compelling antagonists.
Oh.
I actually had a similar experience in a game where the cult leader wasn't like this power-hungry tyrant.
Okay.
But it was more of a charismatic figure who promised salvation and enlightenment. And they had built this whole community around this idea. And some of my fellow players were genuinely conflicted about opposing them.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Seems like Barakat kind of touches on that in the article.
Yeah.
Where he highlights the allure of the unknown as a key aspect of cults.
Yeah, for sure.
Cults thrive on secrecy, and they offer these glimpses into forbidden knowledge.
Right.
Which I think just naturally kind of taps into our curiosity as humans.
Well, it's more than just curiosity. It's this inherent desire that we have for belonging and purpose.
Yeah.
They offer this sense of community, a shared identity.
Right.
And a cause that's greater than oneself.
Yeah.
So it can be very appealing, especially to individuals who maybe feel lost or disillusioned with the world around them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The article also delves into different types of cult leaders.
Right.
And it showcases their complexity beyond just being quote unquote evil.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's not always about power or control.
Right.
Some are driven by a really twisted sense of altruism.
Okay.
Genuinely believing that they are saving the world.
Wow.
Barakat mentions the charismatic visionary who promises this utopian future.
Okay.
We also have the ruthless manipulator who wields fear and intimidation.
Right.
And then the false prophet who claims to have divine insight.
Right.
So each one presents this unique challenge for players to overcome.
Yeah, thinking back to my game, our cult leader was definitely the charismatic visionary type.
Uh-huh.
His eloquence and conviction were so compelling that even my character,
Wow.
who was a hardened rogue, found herself kind of questioning her own beliefs for a moment.
It's that internal conflict.
Right.
That questioning of values that really makes a cult leader memorable.
Yeah.
They force players to confront not just the external threat, but also the internal struggle of discerning right from wrong.
Yeah.
In a world where those lines are often blurred.
It's true. And that's where the article's discussion of moral ambiguity, I think, really comes in.
Right.
Because cults often operate in shades of gray.
Yeah.
Right? They kind of blur the lines between good and evil.
For sure.
And they make players question who they can trust and what they're willing to do to achieve their goals.
Exactly.
And Barakat provides some excellent examples.
Like what?
Imagine a cult that's seeking to eradicate a devastating plague.
Okay.
But to do that, they have to sacrifice innocent lives.
Wow.
Or a cult that is devoted to environmental preservation, but they resort to eco-terrorism.
Yeah.
That's a great example.
These morally ambiguous situations, they force players to kind of confront their own ethics and make difficult decisions that might have unforeseen consequences.
Absolutely.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
Those are some great examples.
Thanks.
It reminds me of this idea of sleeper agents that the article mentions.
Yeah.
These individuals are embedded in positions of power.
Right.
And they secretly advance the cult's agenda.
Yeah.
It's a chilling thought.
It is.
Especially when you consider how this tactic plays out in real-world scenarios.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah, sleeper agents are often seemingly ordinary individuals, like merchants, council members.
You would never suspect.
Exactly, or even like beloved community leaders.
Right.
Which makes them really difficult to identify and counter.
And they manipulate systems from within. They subtly influence decisions and public opinion to further the cult's goals.
Yeah.
They're truly insidious antagonists.
They are.
It's scary. This concept of sleeper agents really highlights how Barakat masterfully blurs the lines between the game and the real world.
He does.
It's like he's urging us to think critically about the information we consume and the motivations behind those who disseminate it.
Yeah, it's like, who's really pulling the strings?
It really is.
Right.
It makes you think.
It does, yeah. It's a brilliant way to kind of add depth and realism to a campaign.
Yeah.
Players become like investigators, not just dungeon crawlers.
Right.
Trying to discern truth from like carefully crafted lies.
Yeah, and it's not just individuals who can be manipulated.
Right.
The article talks about how entire communities can be swayed by the cult's influence.
That's right. He calls this tactic charismatic charades. Cults often present themselves as like benevolent organizations.
Okay.
Offering aid community events or even like solutions to pressing social issues.
Right.
It's a way to gain trust and to subtly shift public opinion in their favor.
It's sneaky. So how can Dungeon Masters effectively portray this in a campaign without like overwhelming players?
Right.
With too much information.
Yeah, well, instead of like lengthy exposition, you can sprinkle clues throughout the game.
Okay.
Imagine like a seemingly harmless festival that's sponsored by a local temple.
Okay.
But upon closer inspection, it reveals these like unsettling undertones.
Wow.
Or a seemingly charitable organization whose leader espouses subtly manipulative rhetoric.
Right.
Players start like piecing together the larger picture, making the discovery all the more satisfying.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a great way to make players feel like active participants in uncovering the cult's influence.
Right.
And speaking of participation, the article also highlights how symbols and rituals aren't just window dressing.
Absolutely.
Right.
They're tools for storytelling.
Yeah.
A symbol etched on a dungeon wall might not just be a cool visual.
Right.
It could be a clue to the cult's history, beliefs, or even their next move.
Oh, wow.
Rituals can become these really tense encounters.
Yeah, forcing players to make strategic choices like do they disrupt the ceremony, observe from the shadows, or maybe even try to infiltrate it?
It reminds me of a session where we stumbled upon a cult performing a ritual under the pale moonlight.
Oh, wow.
And we were outnumbered and outmatched.
Okay.
So we opted for a stealthy approach, just observing their actions.
Okay.
To gather intel.
Smart.
It was a fantastic way to build suspense and deepen the mystery surrounding the cult.
Yeah, those are the moments that make a campaign really memorable.
For sure.
And the best part is that these symbols and rituals can be tailored to fit any campaign setting or theme.
That's true.
Yeah.
The article also emphasizes that cults aren't just limited to shadowy back alleys and hidden temples.
Right.
They can exist in plain sight, influencing society from within.
Exactly. Barakat encourages DMs to think beyond the stereotypical robe and dagger cult.
Okay.
A seemingly benevolent organization preaching peace and harmony might actually harbor sinister ulterior motives.
Or a powerful merchant guild could be secretly manipulating trade routes to destabilize the kingdom.
It's crazy.
Yeah, this adds another layer of complexity and challenge, forcing players to be more discerning and strategic in their approach.
Yeah, it really drives home the idea that cults can be incredibly versatile antagonists.
Yeah.
Right, they can be seamlessly integrated into various campaign settings and storylines.
Absolutely.
It's really cool.
Speaking of versatility, the article also contrasts hidden and open cults.
Okay.
Each presenting unique challenges for players.
So hidden cults shrouded in secrecy require investigation.
Right.
Players have to gather clues, piece together information, and expose the cult's clandestine operations.
It's a perfect opportunity for intrigue and mystery.
It is.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we have open cults.
Right.
They operate in plain sight.
Right out in the open.
They might hold positions of power and influence.
Exactly.
Confronting them requires more than just brute force.
Excellent.
It involves political maneuvering, exposing their corruption, or perhaps rallying public opinion against them.
Yeah, this approach not only makes combats more dynamic, But it also encourages players to think creatively about solutions beyond just swinging a sword.
It does.
Yeah.
And it reinforces the idea that cults are more than just a collection of monsters to defeat.
Right.
They're multifaceted organizations with goals, agendas, and strategies that players must unravel and counter.
Exactly.
And that brings us to the article's final point.
Okay.
Cults as story drivers.
Yeah.
Weaving complex narratives that can span entire campaigns.
Absolutely.
Right.
Their goals and actions can have far-reaching consequences, shaping the world around them.
Right.
Maybe the cult seeks to awaken an ancient evil, plunging the land into darkness.
Oh, wow.
Or they might aim to control key resources, sparking economic and political turmoil.
I particularly love the idea of unexpected plot twists.
Oh, yeah.
Like, imagine a trusted NPC being revealed as a high-ranking cult member. Or a seemingly minor side quest.
Right.
Unveiling a much larger conspiracy orchestrated by the cult.
Yeah, those are the moments that keep players on the edge of their seats.
Right.
Constantly questioning who they can trust and what will happen next.
Yeah, it's like that classic trope of like the chosen one.
Right.
But with a sinister twist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of a hero destined to save the world, you have individuals who are being manipulated into becoming instruments of the cult's will.
And that's where the real brilliance lies.
Right.
By weaving cults into your campaign narrative.
Yeah.
You're not just creating encounters.
Right.
You're crafting this like intricate web of intrigue, mystery, and moral ambiguity.
The article really emphasizes how cults can be so much more than just a group of bad guys to defeat.
Right.
They can be catalysts for character development, forcing players to make tough choices that have lasting consequences.
Absolutely. Imagine a paladin who's forced to question their oath.
Okay.
When they encounter a cult whose members genuinely believe that their actions are serving a higher purpose, even if those actions are morally reprehensible, or a rogue who is torn between their loyalty to their party and the allure of power offered by a seductive cult leader.
Wow.
These internal struggles can lead to some of the most compelling role-playing moments.
It's true. It's like the article says, designing cults for D&D campaigns isn't just about creating villains. It's about weaving this tapestry of interconnected narratives, compelling characters, and these thought-provoking scenarios that challenge players on multiple levels.
It's about creating a world that feels alive.
Yeah.
Where even the actions of a seemingly insignificant cult can have ripple effects that impact the entire campaign setting.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to give a shout out to LitRPG Reads.
Oh, yeah.
And the author Amir Barakat for this fantastic article. It's truly a treasure trove of ideas and inspiration.
It is.
For dungeon masters looking to add depth and intrigue to their campaigns.
Couldn't agree more. It's a must-read for anyone who wants to craft these truly unforgettable cults that'll keep their players engaged and on the edge of their seats.
You know, we've spent this whole deep dive dissecting the darker side of cults.
Yeah.
But they offer a fascinating lens for exploring the power of belief in community.
That's a really insightful point. You know, what are some of the most compelling groups or movements throughout history? The ones that inspire like this fervent dedication often hinge on shared beliefs and a sense of belonging.
Exactly. So we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Think about the most captivating groups or movements that you've encountered.
Okay.
Whether it's in stories or history or even your own life.
Right.
What made them so compelling? Was it their shared purpose, their unwavering belief, or their ability to inspire change?
Yeah. Let us know.
Share your thoughts in the comments below.